Looks like our presenter's having just a little bit of difficulty getting set up, so it might just be a couple minutes. So my apologies, but we will get going here as soon as we can.
Hi, Catherine, can you hear me okay? Oh, I think you're on mute there. Give me 1 second.
I can hear you though.
Okay. I apologize. My computer is giving me fits. So
No, we all know how technology can be sometimes, so no worries.
give me 1 second. I just want to see if I can maybe. Okay, give me 1 second. I'm going to see if I can get this PowerPoint over to my phone instead. So this.
Yeah, you can send it to me too, and I can always present.
That would be awesome.
Present mode, yeah.
Okay, give me one. Let me grab that.
Okay.
See how long it takes for this to get through.
The age-old question, right?
Right.
Well, cool. Well, I guess while I'm waiting for that, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and
Yeah.
and I'll get it uploaded as soon as I get it over here.
Yep, absolutely.
Awesome.
Well, hi everybody. Thank you for your patience while I figure out my computer issues. My name's Stephen Manor. I am I guess I'm not technically an employee for Homegrown, but I've worked with Homegrown for a long time. I've coached a lot of clinics and camps through Homegrown. I don't know if any of you know Ben McLean, but he was the one who actually brought me into the program and then got me involved with the Minnesota Chill. So I've been working with Homegrown in the Chill for quite a long time. Been around Minnesota lacrosse since 2008. I've been coaching since I was 18, so 14 years now, and have been playing since I was in about ninth grade. So 18 years. Oh, geez. 18 years this summer. And so, yeah, I love this game. I love being around. Perfect. Being around the game, and I love teaching it, and I love when people get to experience it for the first time or learn more about it, because that was what made me fall in love with it in the first place. So as you can see on the screen here, I currently live in North Branch with my family. I've got 3 kids at 5, 3, and 10 months. So busy household. We've got some land up here, so we do have some sheep and some chickens and a few other things that keep us busy. But again, I've got I've been around lacrosse a long time. I was able to coach under Greg and Christy Visick over at Hill Murray for a number of years at the JV and varsity level. I was the head varsity coach at Hudson High School for a year, and before that had been involved with their program for about 3 years prior. So again, happy to be here, happy to educate as much as I can about what lacrosse is and kind of get you introduced to the Lax 101 course. So we can go on to the next slide there, Catherine. So first off, what is lacrosse? Lacrosse has a really long history, and I think it's always important to understand, or at least be aware of, where it's come from. So lacrosse is actually originally a Native American sport, and well, I shouldn't say a sport, a Native American ceremony, essentially, because it was originally created as a medicine game in an effort to honor the creator. The whole thing about lacrosse was it was used to resolve conflicts. It was intertribal communication. It was ceremony and celebration. So from that, it's evolved and changed as far back as the 17th and 18th century, where French missionaries actually started trying to adopt the sport, or adopt it as a sport, and then kind of bring it into European culture. So again, it started 11th century with originally the northeastern North American Native American tribes, and then worked its way through Canada and then down into the States and throughout the States from there. And the one exciting little note, as of 2028, lacrosse is being adopted again into the Olympics. It hasn't been in the Olympics for over 100 years as an official Olympic sport. So that's pretty exciting for the sport and its growth. So wanted to call that out and be pretty happy about that. So just as some basic knowledge for equipment. So, boys lacrosse is going to be significantly different from girls lacrosse just by virtue of the level of contact. Still contact in girls lacrosse, but boys are allowed to chop each other's arms off to some extent. So basic equipment is going to be your helmet, or to start with is going to be your stick, otherwise known as the cross. So we do have the short sticks, which mostly our midfielders and attackmen are going to use. Some goalies use a short stick as their stick as well. And then we also have the defensive long poles. So those are going to be those 6-foot long sticks that you usually see. They can be cut down. I want to say the minimum length for a deep pole is 60 inches, if I'm not mistaken. So you'll see some varying sizes here and there. But again, protective gear, at least, always the most important thing. We start with our helmet. We've got our shoulder pads, elbow pads, gloves, our mouth guard, and our cup. And so all of those are effectively required equipment at all levels. The cup is variable, but mouth guards, helmets, everything like that, we're obviously wanting to protect from concussions, to protect from any major injuries while we're playing the sport. We can go ahead, Catherine. So again, to start with the cross, so that is our stick. You'll hear some penalties or fouls be called as like kicking the cross. So the original name of the stick itself is the cross. So a picture here is just kind of an evolution of where the stick has come from. We actually do have some Native American leagues and or programs that still play with the, it looks like it's actually the second or third one on the list there from the left. They actually use the original sticks to play the original iterations of the game. So as you can see, it's come a long way, and has changed pieces, has become a little bit more modern, and has gone all the way from something that you really can only use with one hand to something you have to use with two. And so most of our modern heads are going to be made out of a firm plastic. It's going to be something that has mesh on it. And so there's a couple variations of the mesh. The standard one that you'll probably see if you just go buy like a pre-built stick from Dick's or any sporting goods store is going to be kind of it's not cloth necessarily, but a fiber material that will stretch and will be very pliable. Over the years, the meshes have been experimented with everything from being coated in wax, being coated in other materials to keep the ball in the stick a little bit better. But the primary ones that you're going to see are the mesh sticks as well as the traditional sticks. And the traditional ones are the ones that are strung with thick leather. And that is what most if not all girls lacrosse sticks are strung with that you can see today. So again, you're going to see those in a couple of variations. There's rules around how deep the pocket can be, how wide the head can be, and those are all just to make sure that people are not making a very, very deep pocket and the ball can never come out. The other pieces of the stick are going to be the shaft. So obviously that's the stick itself. And that is typically made of metal. We have, there's so many variations, just kind of like hockey sticks. There's different blends of scandium titanium. There's different blends of carbon fiber, all sorts of different things that affect the weight, the flex, that kind of thing as far as sticks go. And that goes for both the attack and the defensive sticks. And then we also have wood sticks. Obviously, the original sticks were made out of different types of wood. I actually had a coach who had a cherry wood stick for a long time. And then there's also bamboo. I have heard of a few of them. They're very heavy and they hurt a lot when you get hit with them. But again, a whole different set of materials that we can use for our sticks. And they're all available mostly online. Otherwise, in like sporting goods stores, lacrosse stores, all sorts of things like that. The butt end is also just the piece of the stick that's at the very end of it. It protects, because a lot of those metal and carbon fiber shafts are hollow just by virtue of weight. And so we don't want any sharp ends while we're playing to go into anybody else. So that butt end protects the end of the stick. And those are going to be made of rubber. Otherwise, there are carbon fiber shafts that are actually fully solid. And I can't remember if they require the butt end for those or not anymore, but you'll see the actual end is sealed. So a lot of times we're just trying to make sure that those corners are safe. And moving on to our protective equipment, as you can see here, we have a few different pieces. Again, we're trying to protect the head, we're trying to protect the neck, we're trying to protect that upper body, specifically the chest area. The helmets this is a bit dated of a picture. That helmet is probably from 5-10 years ago, something like that, if not a little bit further. But all of our helmets have to be NOCSE certified. It is the overall governing body for equipment certification. Helmets do have to get recertified every year by NOCSE. And that is something that a lot of associations and or programs will take care of and send helmets back together so that everything gets sent back at the same time. But it is a process to make sure that kids are safe, that the helmets are functioning appropriately, and that, again, they're protecting from concussions as much as possible, and that they meet the standards for, again, keeping kids safe ultimately. Shoulder pads, you'll see a ton of different variations of these. You will see ones that have those shoulder guard that goes down onto your bicep removed. But the primary purpose of those, again, is to have that thick nub right in front of the chest piece. That's what's actually going to protect from, and I can't remember the name of the actual medical condition that occurs, but if you get hit in the chest with a 90-mile-an-hour shot, but from a very solid rubber ball, it can cause damage and or stop your heart. And so there's newer regulations within the last few years that have thickened that breastplate piece that are trying to prevent that, and to again protect the kids from taking a shot that could be dangerous. The elbow pads, there's a few different variations of those. We have attack pads that go all the way from the middle of your forearm all the way up to the middle of your bicep. You have defensive caps that are about 3 inches long and they protect pretty much nothing. But as long as it is covering and protecting that elbow, that joint piece, those are valid and available elbow guards. And obviously we have our gloves, which are going to protect hands from slashes, from contact, that sort of thing. Again, tons and tons of different variations of gloves. The only real differences in gloves is going to be weight, as well as between goalie and field player gloves. Goalies have a significantly thicker thumb because they're sticking that thumb out while they're trying to save the ball. And if you take a shot off the thumb, that can hurt. And then obviously the other pieces are the mouth guard and the cup. So just trying to make sure that kids are protected and able to keep playing as long as possible. So to continue on with the goalie equipment, obviously they have slightly different equipment based on taking shots from all angles. So first thing, the helmet does still requires to be Nazi certified. And it also is required for goalies to wear a throat guard. And there's different variations of throat guards. There's the older ones that I'm sure some of you have seen. They actually tie to the bottom of the helmet itself, and you have to tie them on. The more modern ones actually strap to the sides of the helmet and then just hang down just underneath the chin guard. So they're a little bit easier to use, a little bit not so wobbly. And they are actually a lot safer just because they protect a wider area of the throat and neck. Rather than shoulder guards, the goalies are wearing a chest guard. And so that is something that goes all the way from underneath their collarbone, or just above their collarbone, excuse me, all the way down to the lower part of their stomach. And so again, we're just trying to make sure that they're not taking a shot in the ribs, take a shot in the heart, and making sure that they are completely or as safe as possible while they're between the pipes. They do have at youth, there is, I believe there's a stipulation that kids can wear elbow guards if they want to. It's not very common, but it is just something that goalies can do. In case they get a ground ball and they're running upfield, they're still able to get slashed in the arm. But it is not a requirement for goalies. They do have to wear the gloves. As I mentioned, the goalies do have a thicker thumb that, again, just protects from the shots and make sure that that's not getting jammed back into their hand. The other two required pieces are obviously a cup as well as shin guards. Shin guards are optional. A lot of times we see younger goalies with shin guards. It hurts, frankly, to get hit with a ball in the shins. And I have had goalies as they're coming up through the ranks say they just no longer feel their shins. And it takes a special person to be a goalie, I have to say, and to take the shin guards off and say, I'm going to take a shot right off of my shin underneath the knee. So youth goalies, a lot of times we will see wear shin guards just because they're still getting used to it as they progress and as it gets a little bit easier. Some find it to be a little bit harder to maneuver and get around in the cage with shin guards on. And there's something to be said for wearing shin guards when you're in a high school game as well. But all in the name of protection, all in the name of making sure that, again, you can play the game as long as you can. So just to cover some quick field variations. So 6U, 8U, and 10U do play for boys on a short field. So it's, as you can see here, the full outline is actually the size of a standard field. So you can fit 2 youth fields into one standard size field as far as like a high school or college field goes. So it's essentially just turned on its side and shortened the field up, and it is played 7-on-7 at these levels just by virtue of the age, the size, the speed, and it provides a lot more opportunity for working on those fundamental skills because obviously the kids are not as big and not quite as strong yet to make those 20, 30, 40-yard passes and everything. And then again, this is pretty much the exact same image, just expanded all the way out. So this is going to be the high school boys and college field. It is effectively the size of a soccer or football field. It is, I'm trying to remember, it's 110 yards. Is that right?
Something like that, yeah.
Yep, something like that. So it's a run. But again, it's a significant jump. This jump happens between 10U and 12U, and so you'll have kids from time to time that jump from 10U to 12U or have not played on a full size field before, and it's quite a shift. And so it takes a little bit of getting used to it, especially coming up through the youth ranks. But once you're in it and able to move up and down the field pretty well, it's no different. So. Standard positions for boys, slightly different from girls. It is 10 on 10 throughout the game. So as I mentioned, youth 10U and under is 7 on 7, and so that's going to be one goalie and then 6 runners. And then at high school, or I'm sorry, at 12U and above, it does go to the 10 on 10. So that means we have 3 attack, 3 midfield, and 3 defenders, as well as 1 goalie. More at 12U and above, sometimes 10U allows it. I haven't seen too many long poles at 10U, but more often than not, we're seeing at 12U the long poles start to come out a little bit more, and we are allowed 4 poles at a time on the field. So that means that one midfielder, often referred to as a long stick midi, is able to carry a long pole and play on the field move as well as a midfielder does. Otherwise, we do have the 3 defenders that can only go to half line or to go to the half line if there are only 3 of them on one side, and the same thing going for the attackmen. Only 3 of them can be on one side at one time, and the midfield can go back and forth between the attacking and defending zones. Just some basic rules. All of the boys' games begin with a face-off. So the girls do a draw where they are standing and they have their sticks together in the middle, and the ball actually goes up. For boys, the ball starts on the ground. And now the new rules as far as high school goes are you cannot be down on your knees. You actually have to be standing, but your stick and your hands are on the ground, and you are effectively fighting for a ground ball to start the game, every game. This happens after every goal, as well as at the start of every quarter and every half. And so there are face-off guys who are, if it's a 10-10 game, if they're the only face-off guy, they're taking upwards of 20 face-offs per game. And so it's a difficult position, but players cannot use their hands to grab the ball. They have to use their stick. But again, one slight difference, which I think is still in place, is girls aren't, Catherine, correct me if I'm wrong, you cannot kick the ball. Is that right?
They can at the older, like 12U and 14 you can, but nobody else can be around them.
That's right. Okay. And so for boys, you can kick the ball into the goal, actually. So you can score off of that. You can kick the ball at any point and use your feet. It's pretty common to kick a ball out of a ground ball scrum and go to scoop the ball as well. It is only 1 point per goal scored. We do not have the 2-point line yet that the PLL does. So I don't think that'll be coming anytime soon. At youth levels, it is pretty minimal stick and body checking. 12U and under is pretty much just light stick checking when you're on ball. Your pokes and your lifts and just some general body contact and jostling within your ground ball scrums. A big stipulation for kids as you're running down the field with 12U and under, or I'm sorry, 10U and under, is there are no one-handed checks. So you'll see kids running down the field with one stick in their hand and they're chasing after a kid like a tomahawk, and the officials do call that from 12U and under. And then obviously depending on the severity, they may call it anyways. 12U and above, one-handed stick checks are allowed as long as they are still legal checks. And that's something that we can get into it with a slash as well. But essentially 14U and up, you're starting to get into that full contact stage where there are what are called takeout checks. At 12U, they kind of flirt with the lines a little bit. just by virtue of it's a contact sport and kids get knocked over from time to time. But the targeted hits where you're coming into somebody else and you are bowling them over, those types of takeout checks are frowned upon at 12U, and then they start to be just more acceptable as part of the game as kids get older and stronger, 14U and up. And then obviously into high school and college, it is full contact, as long as the contact is occurring below the neck and above the waist. So there's no contact to the legs, there's no contact to the back. That is a big one. Pushes in the back, slashes to the back, attempts that are not hitting stick are going to be penalties typically. Those penalties do create a player up or player down situation. There are no like penalty shots, really. It is just an odd man situation where the player who received the penalty has to leave the field for the allotted penalty time, and then the team that did not get the penalty is able to play player up or player down. Only one other rule that is pretty important is only the goalie can be in the crease. There used to be a time where defensemen would step into the crease if the goalie was out chasing a ball, and it's just too dangerous for players to step into the crease at all, especially when they're on defense and a shot could be coming and they don't have proper protective equipment. Some official signals. So a lot of these on this slide here are going to be our technical fouls. So things like offsides, in and out of the crease. My phone is very small. Give me one moment. Illegal screens, interference. So these are typically just minor infractions that would typically cause. So if a team set an illegal screen or an illegal pick, they would turn the ball over. There wouldn't be a penalty. If the team that does not have the ball performs one of these fouls or is like holding or is offsides, a penalty is assessed, and typically it is only a 30-second penalty. So it does depend on who has the ball on how the penalty is assessed for these. So again, the crease, if an attackman steps into the crease while they're on offense, it's a turnover. If there's an illegal substitution while the team is on defense, that would be a 30-second penalty. So slight variations in how those are assessed, and the officials will be using these types of signals when they're going to call those out to the bench. Personal fouls are a little bit different because these ones are going to be our primary contact penalties. So things like slashing, things like a cross check, things like unsportsmanlike conduct. So if we look here, we've got, the cross checking is going to be a big one where hands are too far apart, or you've extended your arms through a person, possibly from the back. And again, a lot of these are primarily because of unsafe play. So again, those slashes that we're seeing that are not even attempting to hit stick, those ones are where the official makes the determination that it's essentially a dangerous play. And those penalties are assessed regardless of where you are on the field. Again, depending on who has the ball. So if an attackman has the ball and he is slashed, play does continue. So if the flag goes down and the attacking team has the ball, they get to essentially get a free play. So when you're on offense and the defensive team gets a flag, you get to attack the goal for free. If you are on, defense and an offense, or I'm sorry, that is correct. Yep, that's what I meant to say. So again, these are our personal fouls. These are the things where you're seeing somebody get blown up, and they were nowhere near the ball. That's our illegal body check. And if these happen, if one player gets 3 personal fouls in a game, they are automatically ejected. These are serious, and depending on the severity, they can start anywhere from 1 minute in penalties to all the way up to, I have seen just an outright ejection. for one time because of, again, the primary focus is contact to the head and neck. So if somebody wasn't looking and somebody just took a 15-yard run and clocks them in the head, that is typically an ejection. So those are things that the officials do watch for and take into account when they're assessing these penalties. Typical is going to be at least a minimum of a minute, sometimes more. And one extra subset of these personal fouls is it is a non-releasable penalty. Typically anything 2 minutes or above is going to be non-releasable. Again, those are dependent on severity. Things like, and again, there are stipulations in the rules at youth and in the high school and college realm where any contact to the head and neck, whether it's a cross check, whether it's a egregious slash, that type of thing, is an automatic non-releasable. And what that means is the player has to serve the full time of the penalty. It isn't released on the event of a goal of the other team scoring a goal. It is they have to serve that entire time, and the team that performed the penalty is down for the full amount. So those ones are, again, very dangerous plays that have occurred, and they are incredibly detrimental to the team that did it. One thing you'll see on here is the deep pocket indication. So I mentioned earlier, it's in the lower left there. Yep. So stick regulations are enforced, and so during each game, sticks are checked. We don't see it a lot of times in the summer, but in the spring, the rules are that the pocket has to be a certain depth, and it has to allow the ball to roll out at all sorts of different angles. So if a stick is found to be illegal for a deep pocket, essentially the caveat is if the stick can be fixed, if the issue with the stick can be fixed, it is most often a 1 minute a 1 minute penalty. If it is actually something structural, where the head is the wrong shape, is not meeting the measurements, if the stick is not able to be adjusted to come back into play, it's actually removed from the game entirely. So it's very important to make sure that your sticks are legal, sticks are used appropriately. Otherwise, those ones can end up being a 3-minute non-releasable. So those ones are taken pretty seriously just because it can create an unfair advantage.
And then I put in the chat a link to some signals that I found. So you guys can reference that back, because obviously, like, just looking quickly, you might forget, but that's a really nice thing to be able. I mean, how many times are you on the sidelines and like you can see what the ref is doing, but you can't hear what they're saying? And so that's just a nice thing to have to look over for yourself during games and all that kind of stuff. And we didn't say at the beginning, but if you guys have questions as we're going through, feel free to use the chat, and we can make sure that we're checking that. And I know, Stephen, if you're on your phone, I can check those and interrupt when we got questions that are coming in.
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Yep, I know we've been motoring through, so please do let me know if you have any questions as we're going, and we can always go back to the slide as well. Some standards to continue on, some standard statistics that we've got. Offensively, shots on goal, shot percentage is a big one that attackmen like to look at. Obviously, our goals and assists, and then ground balls, faceoffs taken, and faceoffs won. So a lot of times it's the percentages that we're looking for, the high percentage shots, high percentage faceoff wins, and then again, our caused turnovers for our defensemen. That is a big one that just means that they were able to actually strip the attackman or midfielder and then our team gained possession of the ball from there. So they actually created the opportunity for the turnover. Goalies, pretty simple. They're looking for saves percentages. Some goalies love to come out of the cage, so they look for those caused turnovers too. And then they're looking for the ground balls off of those caused turnovers as well.
This is a really great thing if you don't want to coach and you're a little nervous. Like, taking stats for the coaches can be really helpful, especially at some of those younger ages where like the ball doesn't necessarily end up in the back of the net as much as you would like. So thinking about ways that we can still work on goals, and by goals I don't mean like the statistic goals, but like goals that we're setting for the kids can be really helpful to be able to track like ground balls. Like we want to have over 10 ground balls this game. And so if you can do that, if you're a parent that like likes statistics and likes to keep game stats, that's a really fun way to keep involved and to really help out your coaching staff as well.
Fair warning, you will get kids coming up after and saying, "What were my stats? What were my stats?"
Very true.
Which again lets you get involved and lets you stay involved. So as a parent, I mentioned that I have 3 kids. I've been coaching for a very long time. My big thing as a coach and as someone who hopefully gets to coach my own kids going forward, is making sure that we let them know that we love watching them play. Right. As a coach and as someone who didn't have kids while I was coaching, that was still something that I loved telling kids and they loved hearing. I'm going to be 32 in June, and I still let my parents come to my men's league games, for for reference, because I love having them there and they love watching me play. So as a parent, making sure that just being as part of this class is taking an interest in the sport, taking an interest in learning what your son is doing, and making sure that you encourage them and you support them throughout that. So again, to that point, making sure that as parents, we are encouraging them at whatever level they are at. Throughout all of the lacrosse community, you're going to get varying levels of skill, you're going to get varying levels of history with the game, and just making sure that we are supporting them in a growth mindset and making sure that, did we get better today? That's what it is. Did you have fun today? That's a big thing that we want to instill in the players, and that keeps them coming back. And so as I say there in the slide, we play and we coach and we support as parents, because we love this game and we love being a part of it. And that's why I love teaching these courses. I love doing the camps and the clinics. I love seeing the youth players coming up that may have never tried it before, but they keep coming back and they keep coming back to the clinics and they keep doing it because just like it might have done or just like it did for me, something clicked at a practice and I fell in love, and it's been almost 20 years now. And then another big thing as parents is being upfront with your kids about what their goals are, and making sure that they're able to set their own goals and say, if it's just starting youth lacrosse and they've gone to some college games and they say, I want to do that, and helping them set those goals to say, how do we get you there? Right? Are we practicing at home? Are we playing catch in the backyard? Are we doing these things outside of practice? Those, 1 hour a week that you may have through association or through your travel team or whatever it is, and making sure that you're talking to them and encouraging them to hit the wall or to get more than 10 ground balls in one game or whatever it ends up being, and making sure that they're real, they're measurable, and that they're achievable. And with parent support, a lot of it is achievable. So just something to keep in mind as parents, that this is a great sport to love. It's been a great community that I've been a part of for a very long time, and plan to continue being a part of until my knees give out.
Yay. Oh,
And then I think we had one last one with some questions and takeaways. Teach your kids not to do this.
yeah, there you go. That's the tomahawk check that Stephen
Yep.
was referencing earlier. And that's literally the ref already has their whistle in their mouth and they're ready on the boys and the girls side
Yep.
to call that one.
Yep.
Cool. What questions do you guys have? It can be, like I'm guessing if you're on this, you have a child that has not played lacrosse before, or maybe they've played a year and you just want to get a little bit better sense of the game. So what are some questions that we can have answer for you guys? It can be about like stuff that we've covered, stuff that we haven't covered, where to get gear, all of that kind of stuff that you kind of need to know going into having your son play lacrosse. You can either put it in the chat or you can unmute yourself. Either one works. I guess maybe, Stephen, while people are thinking of their questions, do you recommend anywhere in the cities for people to get gear if they haven't bought, if they are in need of stuff?
Yes. So like I mentioned, Dick's still has, like Dick's Sporting Goods has, I would say, a limited selection. And they do have Play It Again. Yep, I saw the chat there. Play It Again. So that is so how do you know it's NOC certified? You can always, I'm trying to remember if there's an actual site for that. It would definitely
Yeah.
be something great to bring up to your association. They can definitely help you with that, and because they may already have a contact with Noxie where they send their helmets already. So whether you're part of a travel team or an association, they should have somebody there that either they're sending helmets to or they're working with. Um, most, if you just bought the helmet recently, then it's 99% going to be Noxie certified. It may just have to be recertified. Um, and that would just be something that, again, you'd want to check. I'm trying to remember if there's a way to actually check the helmet itself.
I would also, I don't know. I mean, the balls, I know the balls have a Noxie like seal on, not a seal, but
Yep.
it's just an imprint. So I would guess that the helmets do also.
Yeah,
Uh,
they should.
and I would guess, Julie, that like that would be something to check with Play It Again Sports also, because I don't think they should be able to resell a helmet if it isn't certified. So they may have already gone through to figure out and make sure that it is a NOXI certified helmet.
Yep.
So I would check with them also.
Yeah, as far as getting gear other places, Play It Again is a great one. Dix is a great one, just for starting equipment. I grew up in Woodbury, and now there's at least East Side Lacrosse is over there. They have two locations. I think one is actually in Chanhassen. The other one is in Woodbury. Um, isn't I think North Star still selling lacrosse equipment? It
They
may
do.
not.
They don't have a
They
lot
do.
in store, but
Right.
they'll order stuff.
Yep.
They've turned into a lot of, the last time I was in there, they had a lot of pickleball stuff because Hopkins is like a hotbed
Sure.
for pickleball.
Sure.
But yeah, they're another option in downtown Hopkins.
Yep. Um, Trying to think who else. There's a lot of stuff online. Even if you just search lacrosse equipment for sale, there is a site. It's called Sideline Swap. There's stuff for sale there all the time. There's, I think it's Lacrosse Monkey. I
Yep.
think sells gear as
Yeah.
well, and I've gotten plenty of equipment and stringing materials from them.
Yep.
So there's a lot of options. But at least around the cities, I know Eastside for sure has a lot of good equipment for sale and all of the current things. But again, as far as just something easy, Dick's and Play It Again are a great place to start.
Yep. Yeah. Agreed. Cool. Any other questions that we got here? You've got great resources, Steven. So, all right. Well, if you're thinking of any more, please feel free to interrupt me or put them in the chat. But one thing that I am going to share just before any more of you depart to get on with your lovely evenings is there is a course called Certified Lacrosse Parent. And there's a similar counterpart on the soccer side. I can't remember what it's called on the soccer side, but essentially it just talks about like how to be a great support, how to be a fan on the sidelines, and to not be that embarrassing parent that like your kid is like turning their head away from you as you're screaming on the sidelines, even with the best of intentions. And so this is a course that we're offering. GNLL is covering the cost. And so you as a parent can take that course for free. It's about 15 minutes. And when you're going through to register to sign up for the course, our code is just GNLL. So super easy to remember, hopefully. And then we'll send this, it's going to be sent out to directors and coaches and stuff. So they will get this and pass this along to you as well. So if you forget and don't like save it tonight, that is there. But if you want to get into it now, that is a really awesome course. And something that we feel strongly and passionate about is obviously like we want the kids to have a good time, and we want you guys as parents to have a good time, and nobody has a good time if somebody has to get escorted off of the field and leave the game. So our goal is to really help you guys have the best experience and have your kids have the best experience. So that is something that we're offering this year, which we're really excited about. And we will have contests. So I know some associations are going to require it for their families. We are just letting that be in the association's hands. So but it is a really great course. And like I said, it's 15 minutes, so it's not a huge time suck either, which is nice. So unless there's any more questions, I will go ahead and we can stop the recording. I'll stop presenting. But thank you guys for hopping on the call. I hope this was informative. And if you do have any further questions, feel free to reach out to me. I can always connect you with Steven or can connect you with people that we have in office. We've got lots of lovely guys that do a lot of stuff on the guys game. So if you ever need anything, please don't hesitate to ask. But I hope that you feel a little bit more confident about boys lacrosse now, and maybe when your director comes up and asks you to serve as a coach, you feel a little bit more comfortable and know that like you learn so much just by being out there and on the field. So it's not as scary of a sport and as different of a sport as it might seem. It really has a lot of similarities to many different sports. So please don't be afraid. I know especially sometimes at that 8U and 10U, we need parent volunteers to step up and coach. So I hope that you feel a little bit more empowered and can go out there and coach those teams, especially moms. We need moms coaching boys too. So don't just leave it to those dads, but really feel good about getting in there and coaching your kids. So thank you guys so much for joining us. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave them in the chat. I'll be on here for another couple minutes. But yeah, have a great rest of your evening. Now I gotta figure out how to stop.